Hey, this is Pamela Riemenschneider. I'm the retail editor for Blue Book Services, and this is the Produce Reporter Week in Review. I'm black and white and red all over, but it's news because I'm in a new office in my house, but it's not quite ready for prime time yet.
Yeah, ugly background. Can't subject the audience to that.
No, but the lighting is much better. So, this week, we had a couple of interesting retail stories, one of which is Safeway Albertsons is consolidating all of its private label into one brand. And I think that's kind of interesting considering all that they've got going on and what's involved in switching over packaging and labeling and all of this stuff. It's not just switching and turning the light switch on.
No, it's
There's a
very complicated, and there are a number of produce brands that are in their private label. We'll see. Of course, salads are always big, but they've got a number of other tomatoes and whatnot.
I thought it was also interesting that they're pulling the old S for Safeway. And as a Safeway family legacy, my mom, my aunts, my grandpa, all of them worked at Safeway back in the 80s, late 70s and 80s. And so we actually around this house still have some Safeway merch. I think the last roll of produce / candy bags maybe had gotten used up a couple of years ago. I've got Christmas ornaments with old Safeway twist ties from the produce department holding them up. So to see that they're going with that signature S also is really interesting too, to kind of combine the Safeway and the Albertsons. It's just interesting timing considering all that they've got going on with the possible Kroger merger. And it also, for me, tells me that even if Safeway and Albertsons and Kroger does go through, it's going to be like a Kroger acquisition in the before times, and we'll still see the Safeway and Albertsons banners out there.
Yeah, and that makes sense. Kroger isn't known everywhere. They're known where they're known, and they've been smart about keeping the brands that they've acquired that have legacy in that market. I mean, I grew up in Portland, Oregon, and Fred Meyer's is a very well established brand and kind of store there, and they haven't changed that. I mean, they have some Kroger private label in there, but it still feels very much like the old Fred Meyer with modern updates. So I wouldn't, it's not a surprise. I think it's very interesting, the investment in private label. And I know that concerns a lot of the readers that we have who try to promote their own particular brands, and it just sets up a battlefront.
Yeah. For a lot of those folks, I mean, here where I live, HEB is an incredibly strong private brand. And if you walk through the produce department, almost all of the produce is under the HEB brand. There's very little branded produce anymore in an HEB store. So I really feel like if they're going to invest into this signature brand and start bringing everything under its umbrella, I would wonder if more brands are going to push into that in their stores. They do already, of course, have like you can go in there and see Campari tomatoes under the Safeway brand if you go into a Randall's. Interesting to note though, where Kroger is expanding the delivery into new markets, like my market, for example, we don't have Kroger branded stores in Austin, Texas, although they are in Dallas and Houston. We are getting the Kroger delivery trucks. They're all over town. I see them all the time. And I'm wondering if the acquisition goes through, if we're going to start seeing maybe some of these older legacy Randall's stores incorporate those deliveries into their model, or if that's going to stay a completely separate part of the business. So it's definitely something to watch. In other retail news, there's something that it's a widget and gizmo kind of thing, and who knows if this is actually going to ever develop into anything, but a whole lot is being said about AI and basically the newest advances in AI, including the Chat GPT, and then there's Google's Bard, although I saw somebody comparing Chat GPT to Google Bard, and then there's OpenAI, and it seems like one is better than the other. And then there's also the backlash where people are finding that the Chat GPT AI is actually giving you the wrong answers on some things. And it lies like very convincingly, but this is like scholarly articles and stuff like that. And it's kind of a caveat in case any journalists decide to try to use it for their own gains. But Instacart, a company that's kind of been, people are wondering, as more retailers bring in-house their online grocery, what is Instacart's next move? And right now, their next move looks like they are launching an AI-powered inspiration search tool called Ask Instacart. And just because I have friends who love widgets and gizmos and love to mess with all the newest technology, I've seen people using ChatGPT to come up with a meal plan. You can just type in there what would be a good meal plan, and then you can tell it your dietary restrictions and all of this stuff, and it'll kick out however many days you ask for. So, and it's getting more and more intelligent. It's not just, somebody else had to come up with this idea, and that's where some of the hangups come in, is when the people power behind these things. You have to buy the menus, you have to consult with somebody on how to do all of this stuff, and now the computers will do it for you. I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, we're not to a scary level yet. We're still at could this be helpful, like using your house Alexa, something like that. I would always be concerned about it being manipulated.
Yes, and that's where I really think that
Yeah, and
that's
spots being
where
bought and sold. And is that a good thing? I don't know that that's a good thing, because
Instacart
it
is.
brings us into a pay for play model
Yeah.
that is not good for the long term.
But if you're Instacart and if you're a brand that's trying to influence Instacart, and you want to get your product on these results more often than not, I would be really skeptical if in a couple of weeks from now someone goes into this Ask Instacart and goes, hey, I'd really like to make a strawberry shortcake, and all of a sudden it kicks out XYZ branded Circle R strawberries on your grocery shopping list, and then it's the list is integrated into Instacart, so you could just order all these ingredients right here after you take a cursory glance, and notice that this retailer has promoted this berry over another berry. That's exactly where it has to go to make money and to make it a useful feature for everyone involved. But as a consumer, I hope it's transparent that that's what's going on. I doubt it would be, though.
No, it doesn't sound like it would be.
It's part of a whole new line of tools that Instacart, because for the longest time, Instacart has been inaccessible for small time advertisers, which I would put produce in foremost of what I would categorize it. They don't have Tide detergent money, they have fresh produce money, and so they have become more and more accessible for produce brands, and I'm wondering if this is all going to be part of it. And I'm sure there's already product pitches for people who are trying to sell this Instacart service to vendors like produce companies. It's all in place, but it's interesting that this is moving forward, and this is just so trendy right now, where people are trying out these new widgets and gizmos. Whether or not they stick around in people's day-to-day lives is yet to be seen, but I do see that a whole lot of people have migrated online for their grocery. So,
and it could take a trend line, kind of like online grocery, where everyone wants to try it, and then there aren't very many people who stick with it regularly, but there are people who will use it occasionally when you need it occasionally. And that could be where it's useful for shoppers to get some new ideas. And then once they've had those new ideas, they don't need to use it anymore.
right. And or it could be for shoppers like me, and I am totally in a rut and I got to figure out something new and I need some kind of inspiration. So every couple of weeks you go, hey, let's let the bots tell me what to eat this week. Or I've got an athlete son who's trying to count his macros and gain whatever, and there's a lot of terminology that I never really thought I would have to deal with, especially as a meal planning mom, to someone who's trying to gain weight for performance. There's a lot of stuff that I don't know that maybe the computers know better than I do. So really interesting developments that I'm wondering where this is going to go.
Yeah, I am too, and it's got to start somewhere. So it is going to be exciting to see how it works and who else picks up on it and starts using it.
Well, in other developments, I don't know if you noticed, but Blue Book has some new faces. We've got a new CEO, a new CFO, and one of our legacy employees has been promoted to COO. So what's going on with Blue Book?
Well, it kind of all started when Jim Carr, the president and CEO, stepped back and joined the board pretty much at the beginning of the year. So Mark Erickson took over as interim president while a search for a permanent CEO was going on, and we've named him. It's Kirk Sewell, and you can read all about him in our story. And I'm hoping to maybe get him on a video that he can interact, well, not interact, but go one direction to our audience so you can at least hear him and hear some of his ideas. And we have a new CFO. CFOs tend to be kind of behind the scenes in the produce industry for the most part, but you will start to see some of our new people at events this year out in the industry. They know how important it is to meet people face to face, and it's a people industry, and you have to be among the people. And I know he's going to see some produce operations in person this summer. As the audience hopefully knows, we're based in suburban Chicago, even though you and I aren't. So there's a great terminal market there that I think they have plans to visit. So yeah,
Look for the new faces.
Some changes, and you'll start to see us at events. And please introduce yourselves to us.
All right. Well, that's it for this week's Produce Reporter Week in Review. If you are not getting the Produce Reporter newsletter, you need to go to producebluebook.com and sign up.